What's up, Father Oblivion? Let's not kid ourselves, but if you're gonna be eating human meat, you do realize how dangerous eating human meat actually is, right? You do realize that we really don't have the type of meat that something like a cow has, that is edible. I mean, like, I understand that's not your point, but you do understand that getting something out of human meat is very difficult. Very few parts are very well edible, or well, some parts are edible, but very good to eat, and a lot of them contain dangerous substances. So yeah, that's definitely a point there. But onto your legit, like, your point. I think the thing is, I think the whole meat is murder thing um, is kind of an overly extreme idea. I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian, but I also understand why people do. You're right. We're not going to get the same protein from vegetables and stuff like that. That's true. Do we need our protein? Well, vegetarians can live just as well as any other type of people. Vegetarians you know, can do fine. And to be honest, the meat intake in America and, well, in most areas of the world is far more than we should be eating, far more than our body is meant to eat. It truly is. Like, the amount of meat we intake is unnatural. It's extreme. It's unhealthy. The amount of meat most people intake. Um, as for meat being murder, well, it is. I don't know that it can be put on the same level as killing another human being, but you know, let's not kid ourselves. It's still killing, and I think that's the point. But my issue is not with people who kill animals. It's with things like slaughterhouses and the meat industry. It doesn't matter how humane the killing was. It's not more humane to keep animals living their lives in bad conditions, or worse conditions than they would be in the wild. It doesn't matter how painful a death is. That's not the most important thing. A death is just a death. But these animals are treated simply like property, and they're not given the proper chance to live a life. We just pretend that these aren't lives because it's more easy for us to pretend these aren't real lives. But let's be honest, these are lives. Okay, these are conscious creatures. Maybe they're not as intelligent, but they are conscious, and they are able to feel and think. And so we can't just ignore that and pretend that this isn't a consciousness that we're removing, that we're taking. So I'm not saying everybody should just stop eating meat. Personally, I've discovered I don't need meat. But I understand some people are going to eat meat. I just think we need to be a little bit less selfish about it. For example, how about organic meat, where at least we know the animals were given a fair chance to live a good life? Also, I have a lot more respect for somebody who could go out and hunt their own meat, because, that way, rather than supporting a corrupt meat industry, really, this animal had the right, was able to live their life until the moment of death. They lived a good life until they were shot. So while I could never go out with a gun and start shooting animals, I still think it's a better solution to have something like hunting than something like keeping animals, caged up, locked up, severely harmed and mistreated. It's not more humane because the whole life has to be taken into account, not the simple moment of death. And so I'm not going to go around saying that meat is wrong. In fact, I'm really kind of tired of the crap I would get for being a vegetarian. You'd think that somebody would have some sort of respect for that decision, but no, people tend to talk down on it like, oh, what if the carrots are screaming when you eat them? It's really ridiculous. because there's nothing negative vegetarians are doing. It's just the ones that are annoying and try to get other people to be vegetarians. The only thing I suggest to people is to make decisions that really don't change that much about your daily life. For example, get, cage free eggs. It's not the end of the world, and the chickens are getting treated better. That's the things I suggest to people. And I think that the government does need to crack down on the meat industry. But honestly, I think that there's more going the other way from meat eaters against vegetarians, giving us this stupid stereotype that we just hate meat eaters and think that you're all just a bunch of immoral idiots. We don't all think that. I actually don't think that I do believe that the consumption of meat is. I wouldn't say that it's immoral, but I would say that it is more moral not to eat meat than to eat meat. But I do understand that different people have their different ideas of what's moral and what's important to them, and that it would be a big change in your life to, change whether you consume meat. So, all I want to see at this point, and I think this is a problem with what the vegetarians are doing, is I think what we should worry about at this point is the meat industry and cracking down on them and stopping the mistreatment of these animals because everyone dies. These animals die. Okay, these animals, yeah, they die. We use them. Okay, and anybody who would kill an animal not to use it, you're sick. I'm sorry, but you're sick if you're just gonna kill an animal to kill an animal. I'm not talking about insects, but if you just kill an animal to kill an animal, or to like stuff it or something, but not even use the meat, you know what? You disgust me. I'm sorry, but that's just sick. Um, yeah, if we're gonna kill and eat these animals, more important than their death or not death is their life. These animals should be given a fair chance to live a happy life, and I think that's what should be fought against, rather than just the meat industry itself should be, or the concept of killing animals for food. That's not what we need to be fighting against at this point. What we need to be fighting against is the mistreatment of animals. And while I would suggest to anybody who who feels like it's a good thing to be a vegetarian, I also understand some people are not. So I instead suggest more reasonable solution and alternatives to the mainstream, meat companies, or I don't know, like animal byproducts or any of that. I'd simply suggest that people make sure that what they would be eating was given a fair life, was given a fair chance to be happy. Um, yeah, Spike here. Peace out.